So I'm working on the behalf of the association, International Lifelong Learning Association. So for the maybe this meetings, the coming meetings and other meetings, I might have the slight problems attending those meetings because of the courses at the university. I have the teaching commitment.
Okay. So, any other risks from anybody's perspective, or?
Nothing from us, Seamus.
No. Okay.
Not from our side.
Nothing for us, thanks.
Okay. If things do emerge, please do. Again, we'll have a shared document for risk management. If things emerge, we can just keep a track on them and just make sure we manage them. Okay. We'll just move on to the intellectual output 1. So this is just a summary. I'm going to pass over to Sakir in a few minutes, who's prepared some more detailed slides. And they will be leading this activity. So as with most of our previous projects, it's starting really with a needs analysis to identify what are the needs and what that will influence the training material to be developed. I suppose critically we need to identify participants that we can survey and gather their insights on the needs, the gaps, particular requirements, and then those will inform our follow-on intellectual outputs, intellectual 2, 3 and 4. And we have a number of phases to go through in terms of the design of the survey, its implementation, the translation of results, the translation of the survey and translation of results, and then we also have to disseminate the results from that needs analysis and state of art report. And all partners will have to do that and get feedback as we progress through it. So I'm just going to hand over to Sakir. I'm going to share his slides, and I'll give you control then, Sakir, also. So hopefully you will start to see a new set of slides from Sakir.
Yes, I have seen this. Yeah, presented now. It's gone.
Okay, Sakir, so you should have control of that now.
It's blank, the screen. Yeah, I have got it now. That's fine. Okay, great. So how can I, move down? Is it?
So okay. If you just use your up and down arrows, that should move the slides.
Doesn't work. So let's see.
Okay, well, if I'll just move the slides for you if that's easier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's the content of my presentation. So as the Siemens pointed out the problem of the so the aim of the study and the objectives and the aim of the study. And we have the research questions. We have to decide and making the agreement what will be the basic the research question and the hypothesis if we have. Now it is gone. We cannot see the slide.
Oops, I'm sorry. There we go.
Okay. And I'll talk about the methodology. So we have to decide the research design. So it is obvious that in the the coming present slides we will see it's going to be the both quantitative and the qualitative research design we are going to employ during the study. So research sample, it is already the set all together the 350 the participants will be participating in the research. So here I'll in the coming slides we'll divide this in the several groups, and the data gathering instruments as well and the procedures. What kind of as the CMS talk about what kind of the materials we are going to develop to collect the data in order to define the needs of this minor ethnic and minority groups like refugees and immigrants living in the partner countries. and the data analysis and the findings and result discussion and the conclusion. So the article and the report based on the need analysis, the study will be like this. So we can move on to next the slide. Okay, the main problem for us with the support for all the partners, we have to write the literature review as including the problem statements and introduction. So to do this, we have this. I think we have to finish this by the end of September or something like that, as far as I know. So I here in this slide, I would like you to all to give you the support writing literature, for example, the introduction words, like the analyzing and sensitizing the literature review matrix. So there should not. We don't need to write about this project too much for the article, since we are going to publish and submit in a journal. Journals have the word limit, so these are changes between the 5,000 to 6,000 or 7,000. So we have to be very concise on the number of the words. So the literature review may be not more than 10 pages, and the remaining will be the methodology and the results and the discussion and conclusion and recommendation sections. So we'll I'll send the matrix later on with the help from you as well. And then the level 1 you will see, and the level 2, for example, what kind of the subjects or the term we are going to write about it. For example, the basic definition. So empowerment. What does empowerment in terms of women from minor ethnic minorities? So the definition of ethnic minorities as well. The situation in the world. Women employment. So I have read the project the proposal. So I have seen some statistics in that project, but I didn't see any the comparative the tables. So we have to maybe this table will be based on the EU countries or around the globe, and the social enterprise. So definitions and what is really the social enterprises for the women in that group, and entrepreneurship skills so needed for the women and in general maybe, and barriers for women in access to work, support for women employees, transversal skills for women employees. So we can extend the topic and add more, or maybe we don't need to write on some others. So so we have to be concise for writing literature review. This is this slide is for us to what will be the main topic and the subtopics and how long they will be in the paper. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's good for me. Anybody else have any comments?
For me, it just sounds like we're talking about the very end, and really we need to sort out the beginning.
Yes, so before starting to write and developing the data need analysis instruments, we have to visit the literature first. What is already being there and what are missing. So okay. And this will help us to write the paper. This is going to be some sort of comparative the papers with the support for all the partner countries. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, we can move on to the next slide. So you have already talked about the aim of the study. No problem. We can move another next. Okay, research questions. So I did go through the research proposals with the aim of the EMwoSE. So how to transfer entrepreneurship skills to women from ethnic minorities, and what are the cultural barriers for women from ethnic minorities. So we have to write about these things in the literature review, and the materials that we are going to develop, the tools to conduct the need analysis survey. So we have to these, the 7 research questions will be the basis for the tool. So we can, add or just eliminate any the research questions here. You are welcome to give any suggestions and the support in that part. So we can move to other slide, it seems, if you like.
Maybe one comment.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
Actually, this taking these research questions, wouldn't it be necessary to put in barriers or resources or whatever, or of specific minorities in specific cultural contexts? Because we have women from different cultural areas in different national contexts. So this should be somehow reflected in the research questions.
Yeah, you are right, the brand. I will, share the document later on with you. So first, we have to design, come in an agreement. So what will be the research questions? So this will lead us to develop the research instruments. So any comments or any idea will be welcome to this research questions. So you are right. In Turkey as well. Now we have more than almost 5 million Syrians, and we have more than 40 the ethnic groups in Turkey. 40. So we have to be very concise, which will be the target group for EMwoSE. You are right. Okay, and you will see later on in the next coming slides.
No. What I mean is we have to also distinguish our ground. So it's of course something different if a Syrian woman is trying to do a social enterprise in Turkey than to do it in Germany.
Yes, you're right. Yeah. I mean, in Turkey, the both have, like in Germany, maybe, they have, some refugees, like we call them, not the refugees not the immigrants, native immigrants in Turkey. They are, the host at the moment for us. But, they have their own business as well. They are struggling to find, the new jobs. So I have done a project with the one of the German companies, Sekua, for the social integration for the Syrians. First, one of the modules we have developed for the employment issues and the problems they face in the workplaces. Like this, there are other minorities as well, like in the people, the women in Germany, in other the countries in Europe. So we can, you are welcome to give any support to improve and develop research questions.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. We can move on to another slide. Next slide.
Okay.
Okay, this is going to be the descriptive survey. We are first, we have to conduct the qualitative the survey. So we have to you will see in the next slide. So we have some techniques like the Lotus and nominal group technique or the focus group discussion. Then based on the findings from the qualitative research instruments that they gather from by them. So we have to maybe design exactly we'll design the questionnaire for the quantitative part of the study. So move on to the next slide. Seems if like. Okay, here. So this is going to be the descriptive anyway. Qualitative one. There's another technique we use. Lotus techniques. Lotus is the technique. It's the creative, the thinking and creating ideas, the creative way. Since the people, the ethnic minorities, one of the barriers for them is the language barriers. So they have, for example, in Turkey, the Syrians, again, for the integration, the language barrier is the main thing for the woman in Turkey. And with this one, we make them create new ideas for asking what are the barriers, what kind of skills you need to run your business or to be happy in the workplace. So there's this technique is we use mostly before the development research instruments. Focus group, this one. So we can gather people and we ask them what they think and what kind of the problems they face in the workplaces. Nominal group technique is another technique. So they may have many problems, many the barriers in front of them. So we have to we need to focus on the main problems, and they are all valid for the other minorities as well. With collecting data, and as well in the research proposal, we have said the face-to-face interview, not the face-to-face, but the interview, and that you said we are going to use SurveyMonkey like applications, the programs on the computer. So with this, the three techniques, maybe we can. At least we have to focus on the Lotus technique and the nominal group technique, definitely to develop the research instruments as the questionnaire, and quantitative as well. So once we collect the data by the qualitative techniques, data techniques, so we have to design the questionnaire. With the questionnaire, so I don't know the minorities in other European countries. First, the majority in Turkey will be the people that have the language barriers. So we can develop the question the different languages, for example, Turkish, Arabic, maybe if there's any from, for example, Afghanistan or Pakistan or Iran. So the questionnaire will be in different language. So is there any idea for this research design?
I have a question, if I may ask you.
Of course, please.
So you said you are planning to do all these interviews and question in the original language of the ethnic minorities, is right?
Not exactly, but for the questionnaire, definitely, but for the Lotus techniques. So.
Okay, but for interviews for the other qualitative methods, you are gonna keep for instance, in Germany, we're gonna interview them in German, for instance, and you in Turkish.
If you think, and if you think that you can get the right data and the data the needed for the project, if you think the German will be enough, no problem. If you think that they have, okay.
The problem is because I did some focus group interviews with refugee women, and of course I did it in German, and in the first one I did it in I had a translator, but this kind of method, it poses also difficulties because you cannot translate one-to-one and so on, so a lot of data gets lost, and if you have some other people and translating from one language to other, I see some difficulties here in accuracy of the results.
Yeah, that's right. You are right. Exactly. We had the same problem. So we sometimes we use translator. They ask for it, but they lead them sometimes. But that's why we have to use the different techniques to, for example, doğrulamak için. If for example, if we use the interview, then if we use another nominal group technique, and they will validate each other, or the Lotus technique. So we have to get the data we need is exactly will be the need of the people. We have to use different the research techniques, and like the data gathering instruments, questionnaire, Lotus technique, and you will see in the next slide how we conduct the Lotus technique.
Yeah.
We have to make them write and think and write down what they need, what in terms of skills.
Of course. But again, I come to the question of that Bernd posted, and we have many types of ethnic minorities, and we also have a lot of ethnic minorities established in Germany for a long time, so who are basically born in Germany. So I guess we should keep in mind that perhaps we should have some common characteristics or something, or at least I'm sure we're gonna talk about that
Yeah,
at our
Alina, I
meeting.
exactly agree with you because otherwise, we can miss the point. We have to limit the number of the minorities. But we have to
Of
keep
course.
maybe the one between 1 to 6, not more than otherwise we cannot finish the study.
Of
So
course.
we have the research the sample will be 350. So we'll come in, we'll see in the next slide. So we
Okay,
can
thank you so
move on
much.
to, okay, you are welcome.
One more comment. Sorry. This plan looks a bit very complicated to me for or very research focused for a project in education. Also looking into the application and the days allocated to IO1.
Yes.
I'm not sure how we can do many interviews, and so I'm not sure whether this complex structure fits into the whole project.
Yes, you are right, Bernardo. We are not going to use all techniques, first of all. And thank you for this question, Brand. So, so this will, make the job easier. So we'll get, so we know that we have, the limited time allocated for all, the IO1 and other IOs as well. So this will help us to use the time effectively. We have to focus what are we asked to do in that project. So I'll share all the documents. This will make you easy to conduct the survey, interviews, and the questionnaires. So since let me explain you one of my the research topic is the education, introduction to education and the research methodology. So in the study in the proposal, this project proposal, already the interviews and the questionnaire survey is mentioned. So this the 4 techniques of the qualitative one help us to develop and design questionnaires. I don't see any problem with conducting the survey. So I will develop the instruments, and we will all translate in our languages. So just enough the number of the participants to conduct these instruments. So not all of them, of course. Is that okay? Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes.
We will see. I'm sure we will discuss this at the kickoff meeting in more detail, so that when there's maybe also some more detailed information on that.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe if I can say something, please. Okay, I was reading the PowerPoint that Simus sent us by email. And what I can read is that after the IO1, we will have the IO2. The IO2 is a storytelling library. That means that we will develop like 35 such stories of women from ethnic minorities. These interviews, storytelling videos, I don't know exactly what we are going to develop, will be of 5 or 10 minutes each. And this is a sort of second qualitative survey, in my opinion. What I agree with Bernd is that effectively, if we will develop a survey, a quantitative survey in our IO1, we will use more or less all our working days for just the quantitative survey, because it's like 50 interviews for each partner, I think. So that means that we need to find our interviewees and talk with them and develop the questionnaire, maybe in Italian, maybe with the help of a translator. After that, we have to move our data and send the data back to you. So maybe, I don't know if can have a sense to think that in the IO1 we can develop the quantitative survey and maybe use what we'll develop in the IO2 to analyze and study for the qualitative one. I don't know. This is just an idea.
Thank you, Sergio. I mean, you are right, but somehow, in order to develop and design a questionnaire as the quantitative data gathering tool, we have to start with the qualitative one, without interviews or without focus group discussion or the lotus technique. So we have to get the idea of the women from ethnic minorities. So maybe the number of the techniques for the qualitative make seems to be maybe difficult for you at the moment, but believe me, that they are not difficult. They are going to be a page in length, no problem. So when you see these tools we'll develop with the help from all the partners, this help you make our the project easier, I believe. So first we have to conduct the qualitative one, then the quant survey. In the final slide, it's about the quantitative the questionnaire. If you move on to the next slide, you will see more what I mean. Okay, research sample working group. So as the Sergio and the Bernd as well mentioned earlier, total we have the 350 participants. So employers here and the employers and the trainers, as the CMOs as well shared with us, ethnic minorities. So we have to decide, as the Alina mentioned, who will be the ethnic minorities among our participants, like the refugees, or the people lost their the jobs, and maybe the woman being the victim of the violence or mobbing or blah. So who will be this person will compose of which group? Comes from which group? The ethnic minorities, women. 1 or 3 or 6 group of people. Like the people, the women that they are divorced, or I don't know. We have to decide exactly who would be these ethnic minorities. Since the project, the focus of the project is the women from ethnic minorities, so they have empowering women through social enterprise. So majority of the participants will be those women. That's why from each the partner country, 25 people, the participants will be ethnic minorities, like employees 20, employers 5. So it is difficult to find more employers than the employees. So I decided that's 25 ethnic minorities, employees 20, employers 5. And trainers, so this will vary and change towards the countries. In Turkey, for example, most of the ethnic minorities, the women, they get the training through the state the public education and training centers. So this may not be different in your cases. So 25. Altogether, the trainers 25 and ethnic minorities 25 and 50. So from each partner country, 50 people will be included in the survey. Any idea, suggestions, contribution to the slides, research sample?
I think Sakir, just Seamus here, the critical thing we'll have to consider is sorry. I think each country is going to have different situations and different makeups in terms of the ethnic minorities, and within that, those subgroups within those that might be employees or employers. What would be useful, even if we take your outline as a consideration, that for our kickoff meeting that people can bring a consideration from their perspective of maybe a list of ethnic minorities that might be appropriate within their countries,
Yes,
and how that might break down, and then I suppose we can map that in a matrix, and then look at where we'll get the commonalities
yeah,
across the
right.
different countries.
That would be great. Yeah, thank you.
But I think, Seamus, we've got to think about where we're going to find the organisations. You know, maybe we need to target the social enterprises first, because it's great saying we've got all of these different types of ethnic minorities, but if they're not in the field of social enterprise, what's the point?
They might be employer as well. Some ethnic minorities, like for the success stories, the storytelling.
Yeah, I suppose just Sarah, from your perspective, your question there, that I suppose that's a decision in terms of the starting point where we're coming from. Obviously we need to identify social enterprises that do engage with women from ethnic minorities or would like to, and
or women from ethnic minorities have started them.
yeah. But there's, I suppose, also, what we've talked about in the proposal is women from ethnic minorities that would like to develop social enterprises, and what are the barriers for them.
This is one of the difficulties of that project, understanding the project for me, because empowering women from ethnic minorities, how do we empower them, ethnic minorities, through social enterprise? So are they already working in the social enterprises, or are they willing to take part in this group? So what kind of support they need? What are the barriers in front of them? So we have to decide this one maybe in the kickoff meeting.
I think some of these issues it's very difficult to discuss in a meeting like this.
Yeah, I suppose these are all points to raise. I didn't want us to be coming cold to a kickoff meeting with not thinking about these points. So hence the reason for raising these and putting them out there as for things for people to think about.
Yes, for us to all together to write this, to conduct this survey, we need to be we need to know who will be the sample of that the study. That's why I did this put this chart here. We have to be we have to be the concrete on this one. Okay.
Okay, so there's a couple of questions raised on this. I mean, I am recording this meeting and I'll send around some minutes for people as well, so of items to think about and consider for our physical meeting. Okay. Should I move on, Sakir?
Yes, please. Okay, this is the Lotus. The Lotus. So
just to make that clear.
Yeah.
Seamus.
Yeah, you're dropping in and out, Sarah, so we're not hearing you fully.
Okay.
Sorry, Sakir, just 1 second. Sarah, do you just want to repeat what you said? Okay, we're not hearing you, Sarah, so...
See, we just wanted to confirm what were we noticed we've got 10 days on IO1. From what we've just been saying, that seems work.
We cannot hear you exactly.
Sarah, your audio is coming and going a lot, so I can't hear you.
I think what Sarah wants to say is that she had to look into the application, as I also did and mentioned, that the numbers of days allocated to IO1 is rather limited.
That's right, Bernd.
And that the idea the ideas we just heard are maybe for times the amount of days allocated. But I think this is something we have to discuss face to face, because this doesn't work on an online basis.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so Sakir, if you want to go through these just for information for us, we do need to consider all this in the context of the resources available. So what might be a recommendation for you is to consider this and
Working day
look
allocated.
at what might be possible within the resources available for the project.
Okay.
Can I just add one thing, Sakir, before we go any further? You are coming to the meeting, the kick-off meeting in Ireland.
I am planning to come to the meeting. I am definitely planning to come to the meeting, but this will depend on the permission from my university.
Right. Okay.
Well, it's quite crucial, really.
Yeah, I just think that is, your attendance and input there, I think, is crucial.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, okay. I mean, let me explain this Lotus very brief. So Lotus is to make the people talk, to get the creative idea. Here and in the center with the orange one, what are the main problems you face at workplaces for the women from ethnic minorities? We forced them to write the 8 of them, A, B, C, D, F, like this. We had to force them to write. So in order to develop the questionnaire, like as a quantitative, the data gathering techniques, we need we have to have some information in our hands. So here, if I get this A to here put, and for example, language barrier, why? So we have to know what are the reasons for the language barriers for the women from ethnic minorities. For example, violence, or for example, the skills needed, like the employment skills. So we make them write down. This is a piece of paper we are going to hand in them. So make them write. That is it. So we get the more opinions for the questionnaires. So we have the more data in our hands. Move on to the next slide, Seamus, if you like. So here, the nominal group technique as a need assessment technique. So in the left-hand side, this is the 7-step technique. So for example, we asked them to know what are the main barriers for you, for example, finding a job in your country, the country you live. So the thing about it, so we just asked them to write down the 3 main important problems for you. The second one, the thinking of the problems, and write down the 3 main problems. Then we put this in an Excel format. Then so we asked them in the third one, we asked them to pick the most important 3 problems, and we just make them rate them. So we give the priorities in order. So here I did this one for the social integration for the Syrian refugees in Turkey. So we developed the 8 modules using the nominal group techniques. So since one of the, as far as I remember from the project proposal, we need to develop some training tools and materials. So this will help us to develop training materials as well as designing and developing the research instruments, for example, questionnaire. Any questions for this one? So when you
So I think we'll just move on to the next one. Is that okay?
Yeah, fine. So at the end of this techniques, I did develop this survey, the questionnaire for the ILO, World Labor Organization, 2 months ago. So developing the basic skills for the Syrians, the refugees in Turkey. Employment skills, the business skills, what kind of skills they need in business. So I did use the Lotus and the nominal group technique and developed this questionnaire both in Turkish and in Arabic. That is it for the time being. Any comment on this one?
Well, I think you've given us lots of things to consider.
Yeah.
I think so it's prompted lots of questions from the team.
Yeah.
I think we all have to consider what's achievable within the resources available,
Okay.
bearing in mind language issues, connecting with the target group, and the data analysis task that we have to complete. So I think we will have to be somewhat clever in how we use our resources to be able to get this work done.
Okay, Simpson, let me explain this one. So, we are gonna all, conduct this survey in our countries. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The instruments will be developed here in Turkey, and we'll, write the. How to use this instrument. So I will develop the instruments, no problem. So I have plenty of experience on this one. So the thing is for you to just conduct the survey, the instrument with the group of people, the ethnic minorities. That's it. So it's going to be a research-based paper. So we will publish this one in the scholarly journal. So it is not an easy thing to publish a manuscript article in a scholarly journal. So that's why we have to convince the editor of the journal and the reviewers as well. That's why the methodology section, methodology part has to be very strong.
Yeah, and that's a completely valid point. I would say, however, that I wouldn't let the publication of an academic journal be the driving point for the design of our methodologies and our tools. That is a nice output. If we achieve it, it will be great. We have to start with the overall aims of the project, the resources available to gather the data, and then as much as possible meet the requirements of the academic journal. But I suppose we don't have, if the purpose of the project itself is not to develop the academic journals, the purpose of the project is to gather information and resources across our partner countries and develop resources which will inform these ethnic minority groups. So that, I suppose that's an important starting point to be clear on for us all.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's all for me.
Okay. So in terms of an action for people to consider for our kickoff meeting, our physical meeting, I suppose some critical points I felt would be important to make progress on getting ready for our meeting in Ireland. Obviously, Sakir has developed some thoughts on the research plan. Again, we've indicated that Bernd and Rasa would input on that, so it would be useful between now and our meeting, Sakir, that you connect with Bernd and Rasa to get their inputs.
Yeah, okay.
I think between now and our meeting also, as Sarah mentioned, we need to start to identify potential social enterprises or groups or organizations that we can work with to get access to these people to gather our data. And it would also be useful for our meeting in Ireland if people have identified any existing work that may have been done within their countries around this topic that could inform our development. And then at our meeting, it would be useful then to agree on our tools that we will use for gathering the data through the surveys. And then from our meeting, we will agree our timeline for the translation and implementation of those surveys.
Yeah. It's fine.
Does that seem okay with everybody? So for our meeting in March, for everybody to have done some thinking from their respective countries on who they might target for the surveys, and for Sakir, I suppose, to take the feedback from today and consider both the resources and the availability and the critical areas.
Siemens, do we have the Dropbox, or do we use Google Drive to share documents?
No, so as I said at the start, we are setting up a SharePoint resource. So hopefully tomorrow or Wednesday we should be able to send the connection details for that to you all.
Okay.
And people will be able to share their documents in those in that resource.
Okay.
Okay, I have one question regarding the meeting. Can you clarify which date and which time we are starting and we are finishing?
Yeah, so we've sent several emails on this.
Yeah, okay.
It is the 14th
Yes.
and the 15th of March. We start at 9 a.m. on the 14th and we finish at 3 p.m. on the 15th.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for information. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So in terms of IO1, so I propose that we try to, for our kickoff meeting in March, that we progress with those tasks, first 3 tasks. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah, fine.
Yes.
And then these are all indicative timelines I've indicated here, that we would try to have our survey materials finalized and translated by the end of April or early May, and then we allow kind of a 3-month window for our surveys or interviews, and production of our national reports in September. This I've indicated September at least for a draft output, so that they can start to inform intellectual output 2 and 3 development. And I think we'll need to consider Sergio's point about how we might use the work of, or dovetail the work of intellectual output 2 with that of intellectual output 1 to maximize resources. So I said these are indicative timelines. We'll get them all fully agreed at our kickoff meeting, but those would be the timescales that we would need to try and meet. So, particularly in terms of context of gathering the data, that April to June, May to June period will be likely the busier period. Okay. Any comments before I move on, or okay?
Fair enough, yeah.
Okay. So IO2 is the storytelling library. So Sergio, do you want to comment on this?
Well, I think that there is not so much to say. I mean, we will talk on IO2 during the kickoff meeting. As I said, from my point of view, considering the few days that we have for IO1, IO2 can really become the support to IO1, because we need to realize some interviews and produce some video storytelling. In this way, we are collecting, if I well understood, but I will study the better before the kickoff meeting, we want to produce some best practice stories. That means that the idea is to present some successful experiences. Inside, we will find problems and how people, so women, migrants, minority groups, have resolved the problem and arrived to develop their own businesses, their social enterprise business. This is more or less what we are going to do. In this way, we are really going to work in a qualitative way with this person, with this woman. And so we can really collect some very good information. If we will be open to acquire and collect this information that I read that we even need to transcribe inside the IO1, then the IO2 could really become the other leg, of the survey. But this is up to us to decide and to discuss during the kickoff meeting. That's it.
Okay, and it did strike me that it makes absolute sense to take advantage of the time that we might spend out with different social enterprises doing surveys to double up on that time to capture these video resources rather than having to implement second journeys out to these people. So it makes sense. We'll have to make sure that we try to maximize our resources at that point.
Yeah.
Okay, so that activity is due to start September of this year and run for more or less 12 months in terms of the capturing of the resources, but we may start that capturing of resources earlier if we are out doing our surveys earlier in this year. And we'll need some, I suppose, input from you, Sergio, as I know you've done on other projects about how best to record those interviews from a technical perspective, etc.
Yeah, we are actually working in a digital storytelling project with Bern and with Loughborough University. So we are actually developing how to develop a digital storytelling. We will use some of this material that we are working on, and maybe we can use it during. I can make an introduction during the kickoff meeting if I have like 15 minutes.
Okay.
And then later on, maybe I can send to all of you a short guide how to develop this kind of materials, of these contents.
That would be great. Okay. The next then is the IO3. So again, this is later on in our project, but as with all of our experience with Erasmus projects, so this really is the ultimate output, is developing the learning resources for training and coaching these ethnic women. So this will be led by VIB. I'm not sure, Raza, if you want to say anything or...
Yeah, just in short, of course, it depends very much on intellectual output 1, what the results, and of course, our discussion, what we will decide about the structure and topics and many other things. Of course, we will prepare some maybe some framework maybe for the kickoff meeting. So we will be presenting maybe during the meeting as well.
Okay.
Some trends or some possibilities, yeah.
And we did indicate potential modules within the proposal, but obviously those are very much open for debate and need to be matched to requirements. But there may be opportunities for utilization of
Yes, maybe not focusing on the topics yet, but just how it could feel, just how to say, what methods we can use and how visualize these resources, more or less focusing on that.
There may be resources from other projects. I'm not sure, Sarah or Chris, you know, from either SEDET or CESBA that, or you know, even from intents that might create opportunities for.
Yeah,
Yes. Sarah?
learned on it. So, you know, we can learn from that as we're going. I think we've still got quite plenty of time.
Don't we need to interlace?
But I think we just need to make sure that whatever we're doing in IO1 reflects the 4 modules you've proposed in IO3.
Where we can work in some stuff from
Yeah.
previous project.
Yeah, and maybe we can work in information from previous projects
There
as
can't
well.
be a dislocation.
Yeah. So I suppose, and that's part of our discussion at our kickoff. You know, the 4 modules that were proposed were taken as potential areas of need. You know, so we can start from the point that that's the end point that we're getting to, and we gather the data to reinforce that that's what's needed, or we leave a blank page and come up with the 4 modules arising out of the data that we gather.
Sure.
So we'll have to consider both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But what's
Yeah.
critical then is Turkey.
but I think that Chris and I were both saying that, you know, it's good meeting if Sakir's not there. I think we need him there in person.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I mean, I suppose that's why we tried to fix the dates early so that everybody would be able to arrange for their travels. So it would be very important, Sakir, that you do your best to make the
Contact.
meeting.
Okay, I'll do my best, yeah. So for this one, you know, I need, you know, the invitation letter to submit, you know, my, you know, the rector's office to get the permission.
Okay, I'll make sure that's sent to you today.
Or, you know, I can send you the sample, you know, the invitation letter from the previous research project I have been involved with Ireland as well, DCU, Dublin City University.
Yeah,
Similar.
that's
Okay.
fine. If you send that to me immediately, I'll turn it around within the next hour for you.
Okay, that's great.
Okay. Then IO4 is the e-learning platform itself. Obviously, to be developed, we've started some initial conversations here just about the project website, etc. So the e-learning platform will be integrated within that. So we'll hopefully have some mock-ups of what it will look like for you when you arrive in Ireland. Okay. And then just quickly to move through the other items, again with the other, similar to the other Erasmus projects, we do all have budgets for running multiplier events. So these are opportunities to disseminate the outcomes from our work to relevant target groups. We'll develop those kind of in year 2 of the project, but they should be held towards the end of the project when we have all the resources available and developed. And we'll standardize the agendas and the materials we develop for those, and then you can organize them within your own countries. And then we have within the budget 2 training events to be organised again in 2020, and that's where we'll, I suppose, be reviewing the various intellectual outputs and considering any modifications that would need to be made. And we've also indicated that we'd consider how the learning resources developed might be used within our training and learning education organisations, and how they might be provided to other organisations as well. With a very broad statement around consideration of accreditation. But that is certainly not a priority from the perspective of the project. Okay. So again, this is just a list of the critical deliverables from each of the intellectual outputs. And to be aware that we do have translation challenges for our non-English speaking partners. So we will also always have to consider that in terms of the depth and length and of the documents we produce.
That's why I put the word limit.
And I think it was an important point raised by Alina in terms of the languages that we will have to consider in terms of what languages we translate it with. But we've indicated we would just translate materials into the partner country languages, not necessarily the languages of the ethnic minorities. So I suppose we need to consider that in the context of both resources and the usefulness of that in terms of conducting the surveys with the relevant target groups and the ethnic minorities. So just to, I suppose, confirm again, the kick-off meeting, physical meeting, is in our Thurles campus. So very important that you come to our Thurles campus. We have 5 different campuses, so the Thurles campus is the one we want you in. So the dates are the 14th and the 15th of March. So 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on the 14th and 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on the 15th. I think Gerasimus, my colleague, has circulated documentation with kind of information around travel arrangements, how to get to and from our main airports to Thurles, hotel requirements, and a kind of a template if you can complete it when you have finalised your travel arrangements. And if there are any dietary requirements or any other issues that we need to be aware of, so when we're booking the various refreshments, that we can be cognizant of that. And we will organise a meal for all the partners on the night of the 14th in Thurles again, so just to be aware of that. Is there any questions for anybody on the kick-off meeting? Logistics?
Are we all going to try and stay in the same place?
That's the plan. We don't have 100 different hotels in Thurles, Sarah.
I bet you do.
We're not that well endowed with. So we have two.
Sorry, the sound's cutting out for me.
So we have 2 main hotels. So we're trying to make sure that everybody stays in the Anner Hotel if possible.
Vienna.
Seamus, can we just ask you a quick question about timing as well? When are I think there's another 2 management meetings, maybe in Freiburg and with us here in the UK. When are they proposed?
Oh, I don't have them off the top of my head,
Okay.
to be honest.
Okay.
I'll have to check the document and get back to you.
Yeah, okay.
As far as I remember, it's the 7 to 8 March.
Yeah, okay. So maybe because everything's changed, we'll just check, check the kick-off dates, because I guess they might be delayed as we're already going to be in month 3 by the time we get to you.
Yeah. So everything, I suppose, from the proposal to any dates that are in proposal, kind of indicative dates, have to be moved out by at least 2 or not 3 months.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'll check those and get back to you.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Seamus.
So I suppose we'll use it in very much a collaborative working approach for the meeting, but ideally each intellectual output leader would lead the discussion. So to bring and prepare materials so that we can have a constructive use of our time. The majority of our time will be spent working on intellectual output 1 and 2. I expect that most of day 1 will concentrate on those because that's the critical tasks. And then the other time spent on kind of project management, finance and other issues, and then we'll keep most of our time for IO 3 and 4 for future meetings as they are later on in the process. And if you are coming and you are staying for the weekend, make sure you bring something green because St. Patrick's Day will be on the Sunday and there will be lots of different activities and national holiday events during that weekend that you can join in with or not. We'll try to take a St. Patrick's Day themed photograph with us all in Thurles during our meeting. So is there any other questions or comments or queries in terms of the kickoff meeting?
No, nothing from us, Seamus.
So, Seamus, just a question about the hotel. We don't need to book the hotel, right? You are going to do this for us.
Yeah. So once we know that who is coming, we will make sure there are rooms booked in the hotel and let everybody know.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So if people can get back their travel forms to Gerasimus as soon as possible, it would be great.
Yeah.
We already booked. I think I understood the email from Gerasimus that we book ourselves. So we already did so, but I think he knows.
Yeah, great. Okay. And you've booked in the Anner, Bernd?
Yes.
Yeah, great. And if people can, make sure to copy both Gerasimus and myself on emails. My travel and movements around means that Gerasimus possibly will get back to you faster than me if there's any queries or comments or any questions. Okay. I think that's the last slide. Yeah. Is there any other comments from people? I know some people need the scanned copy of the signed contract. I have that. We retrieved it. It was sent to a completely different section of our institute, so it took me a couple of weeks to track it down, but I found it last week. So that will be scanned to you today and sent to everybody. Okay. Unless there's anything else, or any other questions from anybody?
No, that's fine.
No, thanks, Seamus.
Thank you, Seamus. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Seamus.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Seamus.
Bye.
I'll see you in a few days.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Thank you so much. Bye.
See you then.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.